You know why? Because the harp seal is cute. A cockroach is not cute, so you can kill all those you want to.
No, that's true. That's absolutely
I had this argument with Ramona Shoulder one time, Fritz Shoulders, and we were out at the ruin, and she said, I would never kill anything. I would never kill anything. I said, well, you don't kill mosquitoes? She said, oh, Forrest. Like that doesn't count. Why would you bring that up?
Do you remember when the Dalai Lama was in town many years ago?
Yeah.
A reporter asked him, if you have a mosquito bothering you, and do you slap it? And he said, no, we Buddhists, no, don't kill animals. No, we don't kill. And then the reporter persisted and said, well, let's say you've tried to shoo the mosquito away and it comes back and it's bitten you again. And I tell mosquito, no, go into next cell with other monk. He have better blood than I do, but don't bother me. And I shoo him out. And the reporter said, all right, the mosquito's come back a third time and has bitten you again. Are you really telling me you're not? He said, well, if mosquito bite third time, then there might be violence. So even the Dalai Lama would slap a mosquito.
Well, I had a boss in Vietnam, a full colonel, and we were very close friends. We knew each other in the gunnery school in Phoenix.
Yeah.
And he was my boss in Vietnam, but he is violently opposed to the death penalty.
Yeah.
And we were talking one night, and I said, well, if this big guy, mean-looking guy with tattoos and piercings all over his face walks in your house, breaks the door down, has a knife this long, and he's heading toward your wife, and he says, I'm going to kill your wife with this knife, and you're sitting in that chair over there, and there's a pistol there, what are you going to do? He said, I'm going to shoot the son of a bitch. He said, then you believe in the death penalty, don't you? So a lot of times it boils down to definitions. And in legal terms, a word that's in a dictionary doesn't mean anything like that in a court of law.
That's true, isn't it? Yeah, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It's true.
For instance, if you fondle a woman, that's rape. Did you know that? Legal definition of that is rape.
Really?
And when they charge you with rape.
Really?
That's why there's so little fondling going on these days.
Well, that's
What's wrong with a little fondling?
Do you want to talk about treasure?
Sure, I'd love to, yeah.
Treasure? Let's talk about the treasure, and why don't you ask Fenn about the treasure and how he came to hide it, and Fenn will answer you.
Well, I'm curious to know when you originally conceived the idea of I shouldn't say that, of hiding a treasure.
Well, in 1988, I had a little tiny pain in my left groin. It went on for a year. And finally I said, I'm just going to go check this out, because only when I laid down and it was very faint. To make a long story short, they removed a kidney and found a big tumor on that vena cava that takes the blood back to the heart. And going into the operation, my doctor said, well, normally we wouldn't remove a kidney just because it isn't working. But he said, since you have a little pain there, let's remove the kidney. And I said, what are the chances of cancer? He said, 5%. I said, okay, let's do it. Well, a 2-hour operation turned into 5. And when it was over, he told me I had a 20% chance of living 3 years. And my radiologist, who was giving me radiation, he wouldn't answer my question. Finally, I said, damn it, doctor, what are my chances? He says, Mr. Fenn, you got an uphill battle.
Oh, that's
and,
terrible.
coupled with 20% chance of living, I told myself, it took me, first it's shock, then it's disbelief, then it's anger, and you go through all of the emotions. And then finally I said, well, damn it, I'm not going to live through this, but you're going to have to drag me down the hall with black marks all over the floor. I said, if I've got to go, I'm just going to take it with me, and heck with everybody else. I mean, I'm going to leave on my terms, not on your terms. And I made some arrangements, and I said, I found that chest, and when I found that beautiful chest, that was the catalyst, because it was so beautiful, and I said, that's the way to go. And I went to gun shows in different places, and I started buying gold, big nuggets. There's 20.2 troy pounds of gold in that chest. And there's all kinds of bracelets with diamonds and rubies and emeralds and different things. And I said, yeah. I said, that's okay. That's what I want to do. If I've got to go, I'm going to take this with me. But that's not the end, because you're coming up behind me, and I want you to look at me and say, you know, if he can do that, I can do that. I'm going to go find his chest. And I can't tell you how many people have sent me emails that said, Mr. Fenn, if I find that chest, I'm going to take some of it out, and then I'm going to go hide it in another place and write another poem. And I probably had 50 people that have sent me an email that said that. And all of them are saying, over half of 2,022 emails that I've responded to as a result of that treasure chest story, over half of them have said, we know we're not going to find the chest, but thank you for getting me and my kids off the couch and out into the woods. Isn't that interesting? I didn't expect that, but that's an interesting byproduct of...
Well, that's wonderful, because you can't find a treasure by sitting in your room on the internet, you know, clicking away or watching movies on TV. Yeah. You got to get out there. And
it's fun to read about it, but it's more fun to do it. I mean, and you know, you're, no matter what failures you have, you profit from your failures. But if you can't find a treasure chest, at least you saw the chipmunks running along the trees and different things, and you're a better person. You're breathing fresh air, you're exercising, and we're going back to nature. Very important. Well, and I look at people that live in Manhattan, they don't know if there's a sky up there or not.
I know, I remember... They
read about the sky, but they don't know that it's there.
They haven't seen the stars in years, some of them.
Right.
But, well, what I love about it is that it's your whole life has been an adventure story. I mean, there are so few people who live life as if every day is a fresh challenge and adventure. And this whole bearing of a treasure is sort of consistent with your whole philosophy of life, isn't it?
But you know, all of that was accidental. I think I'm an adventurer once I get started. But everything that I've done, I didn't go to college because I didn't think I could pass the courses. I made D's and F's in high school. And then when I joined the Air Force, I got mad at my sergeant. I was a private, so I volunteered for everything there was in the manuals, and they needed pilots, so they took me into pilot training. But I said, you know, I can't, maybe be a pilot. I can't pass those courses. But there's camaraderie, there's pride, there's some incentive because everybody else is doing it. And then I volunteered to go to Vietnam. But I said, those guys are not going to send me to war. Are you kidding me? You know, I can't do that. And I ended up flying 328 combat missions, shot down twice, and I kept telling myself, you know, and a lot of my buddies were dropping bombs from 3,000 feet. I wanted to scrape them off. You know, I wanted to drop them low and keep going so somebody doesn't have to go back tomorrow and do a better job, particularly with napalm. And I found that the guys that were being really careful and alert, everything they were doing was based on the best possible outcome, they're the ones that get shot first. And I was scraping that stuff off the trees, and I rarely missed a target, and I got shot down twice. I took battle damage other times, but I kept coming back, and that's why the grave marker in my book became so important to me. You know, there was something a lot larger than me going on in this story. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm a kind of a romantic. At night, 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm writing things. And I get up the next morning at 9 o'clock and come in here and look, and I said, my God, who wrote that? I mean, that's... but, you know, I said, yeah, I mean... And that's where the treasure chest became an important thing to me. I'm going to do this, and they're still looking for the lost Dutchman mine in the Superstition Mountains in Arizona and other places. And I hope 10,000 years from now, people are still looking for Fenn's chest out there someplace.
Well, you know, one of the things that happens is, as time passes, the size of the treasure gets larger. People exaggerate it.
The writers exaggerate. And I've
millions, billions of dollars. Just think in a few hundred years they're going to be talking about the $1 billion that Fenn buried.
But you know, I've been very careful. I have never said what I thought the value was of that chest and I gave $25,000 for the chest.
Yeah.
But I've never said what I thought it was worth, because you can't say the value of gold goes up and down every day. And a lot of the coins in that chest, there are 265 gold coins in that chest, and I've never said that before. But there are 265 gold coins in there. Most of them are American double eagles.
Yeah.
And some of them have numismatic value that may be 10 or 20, 30 times the value of the gold spot.
Yeah.
And so who knows what the chest is worth. But everybody that writes adds another $1 million to it. And I've said facetiously that when the thing gets to $10 million, I'm going to go back and get it.
Well, I have to say, I will never forget when you brought me into your vault and showed me, lifted the lid on that chest, and I saw the gold heaped up inside, these gold nuggets the size of birds' eggs and heaps of coins. It was just like a pirate treasure, and the glittering jewels, and I couldn't believe it. And then to pick it up, that cold, heavy feel of gold. There's something very primitive about the feeling it gives you. You know that
a beautiful gold nugget can be worth 4 or 5 times what it weighs. And that one big nugget weighs, I think, 17 troy ounces, a little over a pound. I like to, when I'm showing particularly women my vault with, and their kids are standing there, I'll pick up that big nugget and hand it to them. About half the time they drop it because they're not expecting it to be that heavy.
Yeah, it's amazing. Gold has a wonderful feel to it. But, you know, this treasure is, you know, so extraordinary. So how did you figure out then, I mean, without giving away, you know, the secrets, but how did you figure out where you were going to hide it, and what, you know, how did you work all those details out?
Well, I got sick in 1988, and I decided I was going to do it then, and it was, well, I was 58 years old, and I hid the chest when I was either 79 or 80. I don't want to say exactly when it was, but that's a lot of years later. So I had 15, 18 years to plan and think about what I was going to do. And I wrote that poem. That poem it looks like it's just something I did every word in that poem is crafted. It's not just a sentence. It's a craft. And I took 15 years to write that poem.
That's interesting. And the poem is in your book.
The poem is in the
and
book.
Everything that you need to know to find the treasure is in that poem.
There are 9 clues in that poem. And you can go, if you can figure out the clues, it's not easy. Because if it was easy, anybody could do it. And I didn't want that. But a guy that sits down and, you know, what we don't do today is think. We skip along the surface instead of diving under the water. Mm-hmm. And a person that's willing to sit down and think with a cup of coffee and turn the phone off and chase the kids out, you can figure that thing out. And the person that can do that may find that chest.
That's interesting. So tell me about some of the people who've been looking and how close they've gotten.
Well, there's a couple in Chicago. He's a truck driver for the state, mostly snow clearing, I think.
Yeah.
He has driven from Chicago out here 9 times. He drives. It's 3 days to get out here. He looks for 2 days and takes 3 days to drive back. He's done that 9 times. He flew out here once with his son to look for the chest and couldn't find it, and he flew back, but it was so expensive he couldn't do that anymore. Mm-hmm. So he decided that they're going to drive, and I get emails from them, and they're looking in my book for. I've said in my book that there are very, very subtle hints in the text in my book that won't lead you to the treasure chest, but they'll help you with the clues if you can correlate the two and mix them up into a catalyst that'll give you this. Then you can find that treasure chest.
Now I'm going to ask a question now. Now we're going to ask Fenn to ask Doug a question. We're going to ask Fenn to ask Doug about how the treasure chest inspired his book. So we're going to go. Did you
How
get
the
what I
treasure
said?
chest inspired him.
That's
Well, his
right.
book was first.
No, he saw your chest. You didn't hide it yet.
Yeah, but the codex was before the treasure chest. Is that what you're talking about?
No, it wasn't before. Wasn't your codex inspired by the chest?
Well, it was inspired by the story that Forrest told me of.
Well,
I
that's-
can't remember exactly when the treasure chest, came into. I can't remember the first time I saw it. Actually, when was it?
Actually, I think they were synonymous. I think
About the same
the
time.
treasure chest did that. But
Yeah.
I was. Everything said that I was dying of cancer, and my father had pancreas cancer, and they gave him 6 months to live. A year later, he's fishing in those fast streams up in Montana, but he refused to take painkillers, and the pancreas cancer was just chewing on him something fierce. So he called me one night on the phone about 10 o'clock at night, and he says, "Forrest, I'm getting ready to take 50 sleeping pills. I just wanted you to know." I said, "Well, I'll be there first thing in the morning." He said, "That's too late." And it was. I had an airplane. I got up at first light and flew down there. And I always respected him. I said in my book that he wasn't going to let it beat him. Isn't that a good comment?
That's
He
good.
wasn't going to let the cancer beat him, so he took his own life.
He beat it in a
Yeah,
sense.
he's going to do it on his own terms.
Yeah.
And I said in my book that I wanted to dare to do it my way.
Well, the whole philosophy of your book, the thrill of the chase, that's the philosophy of your life. And I mean, the book is as much an adventure story and a story about treasure as it is laying out a very interesting and beautiful philosophy of life, which is, it's not getting there. It's not finding the treasure that's important, but it's the thrill of the chase. It's working for that. I love that philosophy.
But I've always been a little bit insecure, and I think I said in my book that any part of some is better than no part of any. And so I was always stretching myself to the point where I'm not going to be able to do this,
Yeah.
but I'm going to stretch the heck out of it. But I did do it. So now I'm going to stretch the next one a little bit stronger. When I built my art gallery here in Santa Fe, half my life had been a fighter pilot, and I didn't go to college. I didn't own a painting. I didn't know anybody that did. I never studied business. And I made it work. I had a very successful art gallery. And I've told people that I think, but because I never did go to college and never did have any experience, I never learned the rules that made businesses fail.
You reinvented it from scratch, and that turned out to be the best
Well, I
thing.
have some things going for me. I have energy, I have imagination, and I got guts. And boy, if you got those three, you don't need money or anything. But I always thought that I was a little bit ahead of myself, and I was not sure whether I was ever going to catch up or not.
But you also have interesting taste. I mean, you discovered so many artists who were unknown, and you found them and made them, famous.
You know how you
household
do
names.
that? They won't teach you this in college, but you know how you become an expert?
How?
You advertise full-page color. That's how you become an expert. And I always advertised full-page color, and people always thought I was an expert. Please don't tell them anything.
Well, getting back to the treasure, the impression that made on me was so strong, and the story that you told about the idea of taking it with you and really doing it. By coincidence, a few weeks after we had our lunch, I got a call from the movie producer Linda Obst, who did Flashdance and Contact. She's a very famous producer. I went to school with her. And she said, "Do you have any ideas for me?" She used to call me up every couple of years. And usually I said, "No, I don't have any ideas. I can't think of anything, But at this point, I first said, "No, I don't have any ideas." And I said, wait a minute. I have an idea. It's not my idea, but it's a great idea. And I told her about you and about, hiding the treasure and taking it with you and everything. Oh, she loved that. And so I made up a whole story around it, not with you as a character, but with an invented character.
That's where you got the codex.
Exactly. That's
Good.
it. That's where my book came from.
Excellent.
And sold the movie rights to her. But before I sold them to her, you remember I called you up. And I said, "Forrest, I've got a movie producer who wants to make a movie, and they're going to pay some money for this. And so, what do you think?" And you said, "Doug, in your very generous way, you're one of the most generous people I've ever met, said, I hope you make $1 million on it. The idea is yours. Run with it. And so I did. And unfortunately, they never made the movie. That's Hollywood, But I wrote a novel about it called The Codex, which I think is one of the best novels I've written.
Well, what you may not know is that when I thought I was going to die, I wanted my story to be told. I wanted and I said in my book, I wrote my unauthorized autobiography because I didn't know where it was going to go. But since I figured I was going to be dead at the end, I couldn't write the book. That's why I wanted you to write the book, because my bones were going to be right there by that treasure chest, and I was going to do it my way.
Yeah.
But Doug didn't want to write that book. I think he was afraid it'd kill me or something.
Well, there's a superstitious fear there, but I have to say the book you wrote, The Thrill of the Chase, is an absolutely fantastic book.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
You've sold thousands of copies, so I guess a lot of people think so.
Very interestingly, just recently I won an award with that book. I forget now what it was, but I won the first prize. But the guy that reviewed the book wrote me a letter, and he said, you don't know anything about literature. I wish I'd saved that letter that he wrote me, but he criticized my grammar and everything. I started writing back, and I said, well, why did I win then? I mean, there were 100 entries. I don't speak the same language as those guys.
But the thing is, that's English professor, concerns. You read Roughing It by Mark Twain, one of the greatest American books ever written. I mean, there's, grammatical, problems. There's all kinds of outrageous, stuff going on in there.
Well, see, this guy was never tuned in to what I was doing. I've written 8 books, and in every book I've made up words. If the reader knows exactly what you're talking about, then who cares what the word is? Yeah. And I always looked the words up in the dictionary to make sure that they were not there. And in my memoir, when I was talking about courting my wife, I said she was much too good for me, but tenacity was never one of my shortcomings. And this guy made a big issue out of me misusing that word. He was not tuned in at all to what I was trying to say.
Well, I understand it. So that's funny. Well, you have the grammarians out there who want to correct everything, and then you have the real writers who don't really obey the rules. I mean, and the rules are meant to be broken. So.
You know what I call those guys? I call them encyclopedia writers. Everything is there, but there's no fun in it.
Well, there's no life in it. There's no interest.
There's something to be said for bouncing off the curb once in a while instead of going right down the center line.
Yes, that's right. Well, you have to take your own path in life, and that's something that you are brilliant at doing. And
well, thank you.
Yes, no, I admire you. I really, you've taught me a lot about the way to live, and I realized, my life had always been goal oriented. Get somewhere. Get that #1 bestseller. Get this. Get that. But what you have taught me is no. It's not the getting. It's not arriving that's important. It's getting there that's important.
When I was a kid, I was going to write a blog about this. I remember very vividly. I was about 8 years old in Temple, Texas. I lived way out on the edge of town, and there was a livery stable down about a half a mile, and a lot of people were still riding horses. And there was a dirt road in front of my house, and this cowboy rode by on a horse about 20, 25 years old, and he looked at me and rode on. I said, "Hiya, cowboy." Well, he pulled his horse up and got off and walked over to me, and I thought he was going to give me a candy bar or something. He punched me right in the nose, knocked me down, bloodied my nose, got on his horse and rode away. And I said, "Jimmy Christmas, what's..." And I said, what can I learn from this? And I started making rules. And when I sold my business 30 years, 40 years, 50 years later, whenever it was, I had 109 rules. And the rule I made at that time was, don't make the alligator mad until you've crossed the river. But to get back to the thought, one of my rules was, it's better to do it and be sorry you did it than to not do it and be sorry you didn't. if I bought that painting and I was sorry, then I could always bail out and get most of my money back, or lose just a little bit. But if I didn't buy that painting and I was sorry, I still regret things that I didn't do 50 years ago.
Yeah.
Still in my mind.
Well, that's good advice.
It's better to do it.
Let's hear some of your other rules.
Well,
Give us the top 10.
Well, the first rule always, no matter what you do for a living or who you are, the number one rule is, it doesn't matter who you are. It only matters who they think you are. It doesn't matter how good that painting is. It only matters how good I can make you believe it is. If that's not true, why is the advertising industry the biggest thing in the world? There's more money spent on advertising than anything else. That's how Andy Warhol got there.
That's right. I mean, his artwork is not anything I care for, but he had a great way of making other people believe it must be valuable.
Well, the good thing is they were, and you know, I used to guarantee 10% profit. Pay me $100,000 for it. Bring it back in a year. I'll give you $110,000 for it. And the reason is, I'm going to pay your interest for the bank. You can enjoy it all this time, and bring it back to me. And the guy would say, well, how can you do that? I mean, how can you guarantee that? And I would tell him, because I borrowed money from the bank to buy this painting, I'm paying interest on it. I said, I hate to pay interest at the bank.
Yeah.
I said, when you bring it back to me and I give you 110% on that $100,000, I would have taken your $100,000 and turned it 4 times and made 25% each time. So I already have my $100,000 back when you bring it back to me.
And then you sell the painting.
And make
resell
another
it for-
25%.
Yeah.
I said, the problem I'm going to have is talking you into bring it back to me in a year.
Mm-hmm. But you discovered some incredible artists who had been completely neglected and forgotten about. I mean, who are some of the really important ones you think you...
Well, I wrote 2 books about Joseph Sharp, and he was $3,500 when I started, and he's up to $2 million now. But the Taos artists, I've written books on, I think, 3 or 4 of those Taos painters, and I keep going back to the same thing as full page color. It doesn't matter what it is. It only matters what you can make them believe it is, and that's not a cynical. I don't say that in a cynical way. I say that's the way it is.
Well, it's human nature. I mean,
yeah. I mean, that's what the stock market is. I mean, what do you buy when you buy stocks? What do you have when it goes to zero? What do you have if a painting value went to zero? What do you have? You have the painting.
Yeah, that's true.
That's powerful.
You can't hang a stock certificate on the wall.
That's right.
Yeah. And then Nikolai Fechin, wasn't he one of the...
I sold 440-something Nikolai Fechin paintings. The first one I sold, I think, was $1,200. And there one sold for $2.2 million in London last year.
But you had a good eye. I mean, you knew. I mean, you say that but you had a great eye because you didn't pick an artist who wasn't any good and then elevate it.
That's true. And I was very fortunate to have a good eye because you can't train a person to have an eye. I had a partner that I bought a lot of paintings with, and he and I never had a disagreement. But he lived in L.A., and he didn't have an eye at all. But he'd say, Forrest, send me $50,000. We're going to buy the greatest Fechin you ever saw. Yeah. And I'd send him $50,000, and he'd send me the paintings, the worst painting I ever saw. but we could always bail out.
Yeah.
Forrest, talk about the Gaspard house.
The Gaspard house?
Yeah, talk about Gaspard and the Gaspard house.
Well, I'm writing a book about Leon Gaspard now. He was one of there were 11 really good painters in Taos. The Taos 10, I would subtract one of those and then throw Fechin and Gaspard in to make a total of 11. But all of them, it was a magic place at the turn of the last century. And I bought the Gaspard house. It's a long story, but I remodeled it, and I just fell in love with those guys. And Gaspard was a Russian American. He was shot down in the First World War. he was in the back seat of an airplane. He was what they'd call aerial photographer today, except they didn't have cameras that would do that then, so he would draw the front line. But anyway, they were shot down, and just before the airplane crashed, he jumped out, landed in a big mud puddle, and beat himself up pretty good. Sick for a long time. But I bought his estate, and all of his documents and ledgers and diaries. And when his first wife died, he married another woman, and she kept copious notes. And it's that material that I'm writing this book about with a partner.
That's interesting. My grandfather was a Navy flyer in World War I who did exactly that. He flew, and he had someone else who did the drawings. And
well, today when you jump out of an airplane without a parachute, you hit the ground going terminal velocity. But in those days, airplane would crash going 50 miles an hour. You know, that's as fast as those things would go. But it's risky jumping out of an airplane without a parachute.
well, I have some pictures of my grandfather. One of them is one of these airplanes, came in and got out of control or something and landed on the hangar roof. He just plowed into the roof and stopped, and here's this picture of this airplane sitting on top of the hangar.
And the guy waving.
And the guy survived. Yeah, it was no problem. He stepped out
I
of
tell
it.
you what, I always thought that when my time came, a train was going to run over me because I've passed everything else up.
Yeah.
I should have been killed a number of times in Vietnam. 5 or 6 times that I'd already given up on myself, but I wasn't.
Well, tell the story, because that is the most amazing story I've ever heard of when you were shot down and the night you spent and then the rescue.
Well, the second time I was shot down was in Laos, right in the middle of the Ho Chi Minh Trail. But I was in deep jungle. I wasn't on I didn't see any paths or roads around there. It was deep jungle, 300-foot tall trees. But I heard dogs barking, and I knew that the Pathet Lao were looking for me. And they didn't have prisoner war camps, so they didn't take prisoners. They just torture you and kill you, So I didn't want any part of that. And so I had a lot to think about that night. It was a little bit cold, and so I couldn't sleep. But all kind of things went through my mind, and it was the second time I'd been shot down. I told myself, "Good Lord, there has to be something better than this." I mean, how many lives can a guy have? And that's when they promoted me to lieutenant colonel, and I turned it down because if I had accepted it, I would have had to serve 2 more years, and I had 20 years and 24 days when I retired. You have to retire at the end of the month, but you have to serve 20 years. And I got out the first minute. I was going home over in Lubbock, Texas. The base was about 9 miles from where I lived and through farm country. And I got about halfway home, and a weird feeling came over me. And I stopped my little Volkswagen Bug, and I climbed through a barbed wire fence, walked out in this big cotton field, 200 yards out in this cotton field. And I took my watch off, and I threw it just as far as I could throw it, ceremoniously threw my watch away. And I took my calendar out of my wallet, and I tore it up in little bits and let the wind spread it. And I said, I'll never get up before daylight, and I'll never go to bed before dark. and I've never worn a watch since then, and I've never done any of those. I went on alert so many times at 4 o'clock in the morning. Now, I'm a night person.
Yeah.
It's hard to go to bed at 2 o'clock and go on alert at 4.
That's a great story. Now, that's a scene out of a movie.
But I said in my book, and nobody has picked up on it that I know of, I washed dishes at the Totem Cafe in West Yellowstone, Montana when I was about 14 years old. And I said that I could get up at 4:45 and be at work half a mile away at 5.
Amazing.
From getting out of bed to on the job in 15 minutes, and it was a half a mile away. And I didn't have a car.
Oh, that's good.
But I always hated to get up.
Yeah. Oh, that's very interesting.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very
Yes.
much.
It's
It went
wonderful.
A lot longer than we thought, and it was.